Hey everyone, welcome back to Drawing for Comics. I hope you've been practicing those basic eyes, nose, mouths, and everything that we've been working on because now it's time to put all of that together and draw the full face. As you can see here, I have several face templates that I already have laid out. Again, this is just for the sake of time and convenience, so you don't have to spend the entire tutorial just watching me draw face shapes and measuring them out. Let's start with basic proportions and get right into it. Okay, so we have closed in here on the first face. Now you can see this is just a basic oval shape, which is how I usually teach people to start with the face. There's another method that involves a ball and drawing off of that is sometimes used. I don't use that very often, so I don't teach that way. Not that that method is not completely viable. So what I usually have students do is start with the oval shape, and then down the middle, cutting that directly in half, straight down like this. That's going to be the midpoint of the face, the halfway point of the face. About halfway down from top to bottom, I'll put in this first line right here, which is the eye line. And then halfway from the eye line to the bottom of the oval, I put in the base of the bottom of the nose. This line is where the bottom of the nose will go in. And then about a third of the way or so down from the nose line to the chin line is where I'll put in the mouth. There's another method where I put the mouth about halfway down, which we'll get into a little bit later. Right here you can see that I have these boxes here. The face is about 5 eye widths wide. So I've already measured that out just so, again, you have to sit here and watch me find that spot. If you're using a ruler and on paper, you can just put your ruler up there, figure out about how wide your face is, divide it up by 5, or you can just kind of eyeball it, rough it in, and then tweak it as you go using your pencil. To do that. Basically that's what I did here is, if you're doing this digitally, I just drew a box and repeated it a couple times on each side, and then made that one unit and measured it to fit the face and use that as my guideline. Okay, whatever works for you really is going to get the job done. So let me pick up the pen here. Let's zoom in a little bit more and let's start with the eyes. Okay, so we've zoomed in, and now we're going to start drawing in our eyes. So as I mentioned, the face is approximately 5 eye widths wide. You can kind of guesstimate it because we're going to do a little rejiggering kind of as we go. So what we're going to do is come in here with our medium gray and just make the upper curve of the eye and the lower curve of the eye. And again, your eyes don't have to be as tall as they are wide. You know, they don't have to fill your box. This is just your guideline for putting your eyes in. I'm going to come up here, rough in an eyebrow, put in the mark for the nose, okay, and then I'm going to come over to the other side and do about the same thing. I'm going to rough in an eye. I'm going to try to make them as symmetrical as I can. Right now I am roughing them out, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I just kind of get the basic shape in there. A little bit further, so let's do this. Let's get rid of that line and come back around this way. There we go. Okay, good enough for now. And then I'm going to come in, bring in my other eyebrow, and that depression near the nose. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to rough in the bottom of the nose. And again, like we talked about last time, less is more with the nose. So for right now, really, I'm just going to rough in just the bottom. Just like that. Put in the mouth line. And for the mouth, I'm going to measure about halfway down. I'm going to get kind of the center of the eye. Come down here. Put a little mark there. Again, over here. Put a little mark there. Draw in my mouth line. And then I'm also going to rough in my lower lip just like that. Now, one thing that we're going to add to the face today that we didn't add before is the ears. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the side of the face, and my ear is going to go about from my eyebrow line to my nose line. So I'm going to come in here. I'm actually going to start close to the eye, and this is going to depend on hairstyle and things like that, what you're comfortable with. But I'm going to come up, make an arc toward the outside, right about to where the eyebrow comes in, loop that back around, and finish it off right about where the nose is. And that is going to be my rough ear shape. Come back on the other side, and you can just kind of rough it in. About the same thing. I'm not too terribly concerned with how wide and the shape just yet. I'm just kind of roughing it in. And we'll back up a little bit and we can see the basics of our face. The ears I tend to finalize around the same time I get the hair put in, because how thick the person's hair is, how much you give them for sideburns is really going to affect how much of that top of that ear we see. And we'll get into kind of designing the ear here in just a minute. So there's our roughed in face. What I would go do from here is finish off the jawline. If this is going to be a male character, I maybe bring the jawline out just a little bit. And then give it kind of a nice point, especially if it's a superhero or a lead character. You want to give them that nice lantern jaw, nice square jaw. Flatten it out here. And I'm going to try to make it matte. Oops, that's probably not a really good place to put that. Here we go. Try that again. Come down here, and again try to get it about the same spot. Figure out about where you are. And again, this is our gray. These are our pencils. This is rough. We're gonna rough this in. Looks like we're a little bit too far off, so let's come out this way, and something like that. We're gonna come in and erase some of this here, just kind of like that. And that's pretty much it for right now, because I usually finish off the top of the head when I put in the hair. But let's come over here. Let's hide our blue lines layer, and you can kind of see how we have the basic face shape, just like that. It looks a little goofy right now, but this is just our rough stage. This is by no means the final product. Now what I want to do is we're going to go down and we're going to look at the alternate version of placing the mouth. So we'll do that in just a second. Okay, so here is our other basic face shape. Okay, and you can see here I have the basic oval, I have the center line, eye line, nose line. You see the mouth line I've moved down a little bit. Now I'll do this for a couple different reasons. We'll go over this a little bit more when we start creating characters and really get into different face shapes and things. But a lot of times if I have a character who's going to have like a pretty thick mustache, kind of rough in something kind of like this. Oop, I'm a little bit too far for that side, but that's alright, because we're just roughing this in here. So something like this, right? Okay, guys, gonna have a nice thick mustache. I want to make sure I have room for that between the nose and the mouth. So I'll rough this in so that the mouth is further down here. Now what this does is it gives me less room for my jawline. So generally when I'm creating these characters, when I come down to draw the jaw, excuse me, that's kind of a little bit of a tongue twister there, huh? Instead of just coming in like this, as we did with the last piece, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come down and extend the jawline and add to the bottom. Okay, so I'll come down again this way. I'm just going to rough this in and not worry too much about keeping it even. Just kind of give you the idea. And that way, if I want to give him maybe like a little beard or a goatee or something, I have room to kind of rough that in. And you can kind of get the idea of what we're doing there. So same idea as what we did before, but by lowering the mouth line, it gives me a little bit more room to play with this area. And then I just extend the jaw underneath, okay? Alright, so from here we're going to switch gears a little bit. We just covered the basics of roughing out the head. I'm going to go into some stock male and female head shapes that I made, again, just for the sake of convenience, so you don't have to watch me rough out the jawline. So we can just get into some couple different face designs and really move forward with this, so you don't have to sit here and watch an hour-long video of me creating different faces. So we're going to do that in just a second. Okay, so here we are with our first female head shape. As you can see, I went a little bit more detailed than just the simple oval. I went ahead and actually just refined the head shape a little bit to reflect more of a female ideal. You see she has a softer jawline, much more curved, doesn't have that angle on it like you saw me rough in for the male figure just a minute ago. And we're going to go through and we're going to build a whole female face. So let's zoom in on the eyes and get started. Okay, so here we are at the eye line of the female figure. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to rough in a couple eyes and build this face up. So I'm going to start right here. As I said, the the face is 5 eyes wide. Obviously the center is going to be for the nose, and then you're going to have a space on beside either eye. So it's really these two spaces right here that are going to occupy where the eye will occupy the face for the most part. And again, we can go a little bit outside those boundaries and kind of fool around with it as to what we like, especially in comic book art and cartooning, where we're not necessarily going for a realistic face, but instead going for something a little bit more stylized. So I'm going to come in here and start right about the corner here, and I'm just going to draw that arc shape and give it a bottom as well. And I'm not too terribly worried about the shape just yet. I'm just kind of roughing in where the eye is going to go. And then over here on this side, I'm going to try to mimic that as best I can, and that's really horrid, but it is just the rough. So I'm going to actually leave it for now because I'm just looking to rough this in, and I'll actually fix this when we do the eyelid. I want to put in a little depression for the nose, and again, this is just a rough. We're just putting in the basics right now. Again, I'm going to come up here now and I'm going to rough in a nice eyebrow. Make another side, just kind of rough it in. Try to make them as even as you can, but we're going to fix it in a minute anyway. And I'm going to come down to my nose line and just put in a nice arc for the nose. Nothing special because it's just the pencils. Just like this. Come down and put in, I'm going to measure about halfway through the eye like I mentioned earlier, and come through, and this is not cooperating with me, make my, there we go, my mouth line just like that, and just for the sake of doing it, put in the lower lip, which is really not how we're going to do the female face, obviously. Pull back a little bit, there we have our basics. So now what I'm going to do is I'll drop in the time lapse as I build out the whole face, so again that you don't have to spend forever watching me put together a face, and then we'll come back, we'll get some hair, put the ears in, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'll be back in just a minute. Bring it out of time lapse for a minute so that we can go in and place the ears. You can always see how the face is coming together, and again with this generic kind of face and the generic proportions. So let's go ahead and let's try to put in an ear. So let me go back to the penciling layer. Let's go back to the gray color and see if it'll, here we go, great. Sometimes when you select something, it'll give you the color of that item back on the brush. So let's come in here and let's rough in some ears again, right about here, and they're going to end right about in here. And since we're looking on the face straight on, we're not going to see a whole lot of the ears, so I'm really going to underplay them as opposed to the sample I did earlier where I was just kind of throwing some ears on there. So they're really going to be kind of flat against the face. That's a little too light on that one. That's good enough for right at the moment. Okay. So the ears are on the side there. We're going to come in and I'm going to put some of the detail in real quick just to kind of cover that. You have the upper arc of the ear here. You have the place where the eardrum, the ear cavity is. Kind of rough it in here this way. Another arc kind of here underneath. And sometimes some detail in here is nice too. Okay. And you go, and you have a basic ear. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the hairstyle real quick, and then we'll really figure out exactly how our ears are going to look and how everything is going to be finalized for the top of the head. So let's go with a basic hairstyle. Let's see. Something that we can sweep back over, at least over one ear, so we can have the ear out there. So let's rough in something kind of like that, just for now, just to get something in there. I'll show a little bit of it bunching up behind the ear, maybe just like that. Just kind of rough it in there for now. Let's see what we want to do about bangs. Maybe it's parted to one side, so let's extend the hair kind of like this. Let's bring another section of hair down this way, and let's let one side hang down just to get a kind of a variety of hair. So let's have it hang down, but you can still see the bottom part of this here, perhaps. Okay, I'll come in here, and we'll put in, the details of the ear. We should still be able to see. Just kind of rough some stuff in there, and see down here. Let's put in kind of the back side of the hair that goes over the ear, and the other side of the hair on this side. Something kind of like that, just as a rough guide. Let's go out just a little bit and take a look at that. Pretty good. Okay, so let me go into time lapse. Let's link this part up, and we'll call this face done for our purposes. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute. With our finished female face. Okay, so you can see we put in all the final details with the hair and the eyes and everything. Now you may say to yourself, this looks really great, but her chin is too big, or her nose is too small, or her eyes are too close together. Things like that. I follow these rules that you said we were supposed to do, but I just don't like the way she came out. And that's okay, because especially with comic book art and cartooning, we can take these basic proportions and we can kind of fiddle with them a little bit, because maybe we chose the wrong mouth for this character, or we chose the wrong nose. When you're doing things traditionally, you can just erase and redraw. If you are here and doing things digitally, again, you have the really cool digital tools, so we can bring in our measurements again and say, well, let's change these eyes. Maybe we want to make them bigger, or that's not what I wanted to select at all. Maybe we want to make them bigger, or maybe we want to make them further apart. So we can do that. We can make them bigger, and then recenter them on the face, just like that. We can simply spread them apart if that's what we want to do. And bring each one. Make sure I flip this whole thing here. Make sure each one starts back further, maybe. We can do that. Okay. We can make the nose bigger if we want to. Okay. We can make the mouth bigger if we want to. Just trying to get away from me there. Just like that. We can do all kinds of things. And you can do that really traditionally with the pencils and stuff too, just by taking your page of head templates that we have and just stretching them out and moving them around, and there so you have a different look. So you can play around with it. It's really like kind of when you played Mr. Potato Head as a kid. You can take your eyes, your nose, and your mouth, and you can rearrange them on the face however you want. Try different proportions, try different styles, things of that nature. Okay? So from here, let's go in and let's do a male face. Okay. So here we are on our basic male face. As you can see, I've already went more detail with shaping the head like I did with the female figure. You can see the male cranium is a little bit wider, kind of more blunt. You get a little bit more of an angle to the jaw here as opposed to the smooth curve that the female jaw had. Okay, so let's go in here. Let's put some of those basic male versions of these face features down and go from there. So let's zoom on the eyes and get started. Okay, so here we are, the male eye. So again, just like what we did with the female face, we're going to just sketch in the eye real quick. Just like that. Top and bottom. I'm going to go ahead and outline the whole thing because I know I'm going to ink over this. Same thing on the other side. Try starting about the same place. Try to get it about the same height. Try to end it right about the same place. Looks pretty terrible. Let's try it again. That's alright. This is the part. I personally still do this part on with pencil, traditionally, on paper. I'm not really much of a digital artist from scratch, so I'm still getting used to the feel of how the digital stuff feels on when sketching things out as well. So, don't beat yourself up too much if you don't get the shapes exactly right when you're just sketching them, because that's what the sketches are for. That's why we start in pencil. That's what erasers are for. It's a wonderful thing. Okay, let me just tweak my eye shape a little bit there. Good. Okay, so your basic eyes. You can see I went a little bit outside my my boundary lines. That's okay. That's what we can do. It's our prerogative as artists. We can change things up as we see fit. So I'm going to come here right around the corner of the eye-ish, kind of come up, just get in basic eyebrow shape. Same thing on the other side. Just kind of rough it in. Boom. Come down to the nose. And I usually pretty much draw everybody's basic nose the same way. Just draw this kind of angle shape. That's how I do it. You can do what you like. Whatever works for you. Come in here, and again, let's try to bring this back up a little bit. Right about from the center of the eye-ish on each side as your basic guide. Come across right about to the center again. And yes, I'm holding down shift to make that nice straight line because I'm working digitally and I can do that. If you're really worried about getting a straight line, traditionally just use a ruler or something. But for the math, you don't really need to worry about it. We're roughing stuff in. Okay, so there's our basic features of the guy. So let's go in and put in some details. I'm going to rough in here real quick just to kind of give me an idea where I'm going to put it. Same thing on the other side. I am not worried about shape at all. I'm just putting the ears in. So I'm not really all that worried about shape. That's too big, but alright. So now let's go in here and put in some details. I'm going to go ahead and switch to inks and time-lapse it just for the sake of speed, and you can kind of watch me get the details done. And I'll come back, we'll finish up the ears, put in the hair, and then we'll go back in time-lapse to finish the face. Okay, so I'll be back in just a minute. So here we are with the male face kind of roughed in. You saw that I made some changes to the pencils and really designed the face of the inks because like with the female face, I didn't really have a clear design in mind when I first started because, just doing this for the tutorial purposes. So from here what we'll do is we'll roughen some hair, finalize the shape of the ears, and then we'll finish off this face and call this tutorial done. So let's go in and kind of think about what we want to do for hair here. Okay, so we're going to give them some sideburns. So let's get a gray here on our pencil. Here we go, good enough. And come in here. And we're on the wrong layer apparently. Yes, we are. There we go. That fixes that. Figure out about how far down we want the sideburns to go, and that's completely up to you. They can go as low or be as non-existent as you want. Thick, thin. Really, it's all up to us. Your own personal taste, preferences. Say maybe his hair comes out to about here. Okay, let's see what kind of hairstyle. Do we want something that's just swept over like we do the ladies? Do we want some kind of bangs or something? What do we want to do? Let's see. Let's do something in between. Let's part his hair in the middle. And let it kind of sweep. That's not what I want to do. Let's come this way. Here we go. Let it sweep down to the sides. I'm not sure if that completely goes with the character, with this face we've created, but hey, we've all had bad haircuts before, right? Come in here. Does come up, arc over, just like this. And that's not great. Let's try that again. It's too high. And right about good enough for right now. There we go. Something like that. And then let's bring the ears back in a little bit more. Maybe this way for the bottom of the ear, something more like that. Something on this side, something more along these lines here. Something more like that, I think probably will work pretty well for our purposes today. So I'm going to go back in a time lapse, finish this up a little bit, and then we'll call it a day. So I'll be back in just a minute. And there's our finished male face. We will go over the ears and hair in more depth in a future video, but I really want to get everybody started with the basic features of the face because I know a lot of people, when they go to start drawing for the first time, they try to draw a person's face and it doesn't come out the way they want it to, and they get very discouraged and don't continue to try to draw because of that. So I really want to give everybody these basic tools to draw these basic faces, and then we'll move on to character construction and some other basics of drawing, and then put it all together for the art of comics. Until next week, be sure to come up with a sheet kind of like this where you have all your basic templates and really just play around with them. I'll put this one in the show notes so everybody can use this as kind of a download to get started. Draw different eyes, noses, mouths, different proportions, different sizes, different designs. Have fun with it. Be creative, and next week we'll come back for basic figure construction. Thank you everybody for watching this video. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next week.